crypto industry has its fair share of supporters on Capitol Hill, but two of its most vocal proponents are Senators Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand. They're joining us at Consensus by CoinDesk in Austin. Together, they have introduced a bipartisan comprehensive crypto responsibility bill. That's why Senators Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand share a spot on CoinDesk's most influential 2022. Joining us now to discuss is Senator Cynthia Lummis. Welcome, Senator. So right before the market crashed in June, you introduced a long-awaited bill, the Responsible Financial Innovation Act, that aims to establish comprehensive regulatory guidelines for the crypto industry. And I wonder, could it have prevented the collapse of FTX, which was one of the largest crypto exchanges at one point in the world?
Yes, Christine, it could have. Thank you for having me on. The type of rehypothecation that was going on with FTX and some of the other attributes of FTX which caused it to fail would have been prevented had the Lummis-Gillibrand bill been in effect. And so it's given Senator Gillibrand and I more emphatic enthusiasm for our bill, and we are continuing daily during these waning days of the 2022 legislative session to prepare our colleagues for 2023, when we will reintroduce our legislation and really make a full court press for its passage.
I wonder how it could have helped, because first of all, FTX is a Bahamas-based entity. Also, Sam Bankman-Fried himself backed the DCCPA, and also another legislation floating around in Congress is the DCA, Digital Commodities Exchange Act. Could these bills have prevented FTX's downfall? Because CFTC Chair Rostin Behnam suggested that there are still gaps.
Well, the legislation that was in the Senate Ag Committee, to which the FTX group contributed significant ideas and thoughts, is different from what is in the Lummis-Gillibrand bill. So Senator Gillibrand and I are hoping that the bill that's introduced in the Ag Committee next year, that's related specifically to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, will look more like what is in our more comprehensive bill. And that's the approach that we intend to take next year. The provisions that would prevent it, again, are to make sure that there's a clear definition between what is a commodity and what is a security. Right now, the way things sit, it's starting to look more like Bitcoin is the only thing that would qualify as a commodity because of the way that Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies on which that use the Ethereum platform.
Do you think Ethereum could be a security?
I do right now. I think it's possible for it to be sufficiently decentralized that it could later be deemed a commodity. But right now, I think it's a security because of the way when they move from proof of work to proof of stake, the way in which it is validated or used on the staking and the inability to de-stake right now, I think make it susceptible to being a security.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of Sam Bankman-Fried's media tour happening right now? And you know, House Representative Maxine Waters has also invited Sam Bankman-Fried to come down to Congress and talk to lawmakers on December 13th. He's been lukewarm on the invitation, but what's your overall impression?
Well, if I were one of his attorneys, I would advise him not to come and visit with Congress. I think that there is potential liability under civil and criminal statutes for things that were done at FTX, not having a board of directors, having 135 companies, not having a board, a clear financial opening for people to look at what they were doing. It just smacks of fraud, and I think that they need to pay attention to what's going on in the bankruptcy court, cooperate with the bankruptcy court, rather than worry about their public image or testifying in front of Congress.
Now, Sam Bankman-Fried was a frequent visitor of Congress and a huge donator of Democratic campaign causes. And I understand he had a visit with you. What did he talk about with you, and what did he want?
Well, I think he just wanted to introduce himself and his company and put a face behind himself and his team, visit a little bit about the approach that Senator Gillibrand and I were taking, just to learn more about how we viewed the difference between commodities and securities and just the basic framework for our legislation. So it was more introductory in nature and learning about each other's approaches to digital assets.
What do you think his overall goals were? I mean, a key one I understand was he wanted a bill passed that would allow FTX users to trade crypto with funds borrowed directly through FTX rather than a broker. And imagine how much of an even greater implosion may have happened if that actually passed.
Well, the problems with having something like FTT, which was then flowing freely among their subsidiaries or affiliated companies with inadequate bookkeeping, the fact that it looks like they were propping up FTT's value and then subsequently pulling assets that had a more defined value out from under FTT, thereby rendering those people that were holding FTT holding the bag with an asset that wasn't worth anywhere near what FTT had represented, seems to be a big component of what happened at FTT. So it's going to be important that these companies have more bank-like or securities-like regulation, in that there's more consumer protection and disclosure required of them.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mentioned that SBF donated a lot to Democratic causes and candidates, specifically $40 million to Democratic candidates ahead of the November midterm elections. Now, you're a Republican, and I understand he didn't directly give you money, but someone affiliated with FTX donated to you. Do you know how much?
I don't, and I don't even know the name. I think we were just able to draw some lines from that contribution back to an FTX affiliate. So we didn't receive money directly from Sam Bankman-Fried. And the problem with what they were doing is they were using commingled customer monies to make those contributions. Anybody can make legal contributions to members of Congress, and the problem here was the source of those funds.
Right. Is that a conflict, for lawmakers who are potentially, or policymakers even, who are deciding regulations going forward? Would that sway judgment with respect to issues that FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried had advocated for?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that it varies from individual legislator to individual legislator. I think in some instances it's just that political contributions are just an avenue to start a conversation, just to meet someone and find out what their interest is in a topic. Now, some people might think that some Democrats that received contributions were swayed to adopt FTX's approach. I can assure you that's not the case with the Lummis-Gillibrand bill. And as I said earlier, our bill would not have permitted the types of business practices that FTX was deploying